Dawie Roodt. Good morning, Dawie.
Good morning to you.
Hello, Chief Economist at the Efficient Group. So, Dawie, you know why we need to chat to you today.
But yeah, because of the circus yesterday.
Yes. So, Dawie, tell me, in what world is it a good idea to increase VAT just like that by 2%?
Well, okay, let's tell you, what kind of answer you want here? You want an academic answer here? Because I can give you the academic answer to that, and that's not a bad idea to increase VAT, but, and this is a very important but, you must reduce other taxes. And the most important tax that you must cut is the company taxes. So increasing VAT and reduce company taxes is a good idea. But the reality is, in the current political environment in South Africa, you must be completely crazy if you want to increase VAT. And if you read the leaked speech of the Minister of Finance, he said, I'm going to increase VAT by 2% because I need to pay the civil servants. That's his second question, just after that. I want to pay the civil servants. And the civil servants in South Africa are already overpaid, and already, not all of them, and already underworked, without a doubt. So, I mean, politically, what was he thinking? I'm going to tax you more. I'm going to increase VAT, which is a regressive tax. It's heavy on the poor especially, because I want to pay the overpaid civil servants more. That's what he said yesterday. And what kind of world is he living in?
So, Dawie, how much money, what is the shortfall here? What gap are they trying
300.
to... 300?
300 billion. In excess of 300 billion, roughly. That's approximately 5% of GDP. So they need to fill that 300 billion somehow. That's the amount of money that they're going to borrow in the financial markets. And remember, they've been borrowing a lot of money in the past, and the total outstanding debt of the state today is close to 6 trillion. You know how much is 6 trillion? It's 6,000 billion rand, which is equal to about 75% of the economy. And that is a big problem, because you need to pay interest on that. And interest is the second biggest expense item of the budget today, and it's increasing at a dramatic rate. The only option here, there are two options. In the short term, you must cut state spending, and in medium longer term, you must put measures in place to get this economy to grow. The South African economy simply cannot carry this massive state machinery. That is just the reality. And those chickens came home to roost yesterday. That penny eventually dropped. I think politicians understand now that this massive machinery, this thing that we call the state, is simply too heavy for the South African economy to carry.
Now, Dawie, so they're looking to find 300 billion, all right?
Yeah.
How much was this 2% VAT increase going to raise?
It's probably going to add, I would guess, well, again, depending how you do the calculations, but it should add about 50 billion to the budget. So they can collect about 50 billion on that. But in reality, it will probably be closer to about 30 billion or just over 30 billion.
So lots of pain for no gain, really.
Not very much, because what is going to happen, if you increase VAT, that will lead to weaker economic growth. That will lead to higher inflation. It will be inflationary. That means that the Reserve Bank will keep interest rates relatively high a little bit longer, which in itself will lead to weaker economic growth. And weaker economic growth also will have a negative impact on all other taxes, not only on VAT collection. So I think VAT increase would have given them about 30 or perhaps 35 billion extra.
And Dawie, realistically, what can happen between now and the 12th of March, which is the new date for the national budget to be delivered? What is going on behind the scenes now?
Yeah.
That answer said it all, Dawie.
Well,
we got you.
Let's see what can happen. Like I've said, the reality is we cannot carry this anymore. So we must cut back on state spending. And there are a couple of places where I think we can cut back. One is certainly on the civil servants' wage bill. Apparently, they've agreed to increase that by 5.5%. So that's something we must talk about. Then there are some other things as well. We have to start talking about privatization. We have to start talking about the so-called BEE fund that they were proposing, this 20 billion. We have to start talking about the efficiency of the state. So we must talk about cutting back on state spending. We can't increase taxes. That is certainly out of the question. Personal income taxes, we can't increase that anymore. The company taxes, we can't do that. So the big items are already maxed out. We can't get more money in. And the only option is to cut back on state spending and to put measures in place to start this economy to grow again. So that's what you have to do. And we should have done this years ago. And now we are taking so much pain because of the mismanagement of the ANC for many, many decades. I think the ANC ran into a brick wall yesterday. This is a turning point economically for South Africa, and I think politically as well. The ANC is not this dominant political party anymore, and I think they realized that yesterday. It's a lot of fun, I think.
Yeah, I think yesterday, for the first time, they realized that they can't operate with total autonomy in a coalition government. But now, Dawie, to break it down to the most basic layman's terms here. All right, you're a family. You're a family of four. You go, hey, we're earning 10,000 rand a month, but we're spending 12,000 rand a month.
Yeah.
You know what? We can't go to the movies. We can't eat out twice a month. We need to start making decisions at home.
Yeah.
We need to start cutting back.
Yeah.
That's as simple as it is, isn't it?
It's simple as that. And while depending who you are, depending who you work for, you probably work in a private sector somewhere. You probably lost your job or are at risk of losing your job because your company is under a lot of pressure. But imagine that there are 2 million people that do not face the same sort of pressure. There are 2 million people that are mostly overpaid and mostly underworked. Then again, not always, not all of them. And I'm referring to the civil servants. And they don't have that kind of pressure. They know they're going to get another 5.5% increase. They know their employer can't go bankrupt because they work for the state. And they know they're going to trash the roads and the country if they don't get this 5.5% increase. But you, were earning 10,000 rand a month, working for a company that is under financial pressure, you run the risk of losing your job. But there are 2 million people out there that do not share the same sort of fears that you are sharing. That is the reality. We have to understand this, that the civil servants in South Africa, and I know I'm going to get hate mail again, but the civil servants in South Africa, on any possible way of measuring this, are overpaid and underworked in South Africa. We must do something about that. And it is the ANC's fault. And it's the ANC's fault because COSATU is part of the tripartite alliance, and COSATU represents the employed, not the unemployed. The COSATU does not represent that person, that family that you described, getting 10,000 rand per month, and that are in very deep trouble financially.
Mm. So what is your forecast here, Dawie? What do you think's going to happen? Are they going to come back and go, okay, it's not going to be 2%, it's going to be 1%? Or is it going to be 0%? What do you think is going to happen?
No, they can't touch that. No, this is something they can't do now. Like I've said, they can't increase the other taxes. I think what we're seeing here, this is a turning point. I think we're going to see significant cuts in state spending because there's no alternative, and that's not all. I also think we're going to see all sort of measures put in place to get this economy to grow faster. And there are many things that can be done to grow the economy faster. We have to improve the efficiency of the state. And we have to look at things like, for example, the procurement system of the state. We have to look at policies like, for example, BEE. We have to make sure that Donald Trump doesn't get angry at us, because if he does, that's going to make a very bad situation even worse. So we have to change our international political stance as well. So those are the kind of realities that South Africa is facing at the moment.
Sure. Oh. All right. Dawie, just before you go, in the intricate workings of what happened yesterday, all right, what do you gather that happened? Was this kept largely a secret to try and push it through at the last minute?
No, like I've said, I've been analyzing this for close to 40 years, and I've been involved in this process as well. When at my young days, when I worked at the Reserve Bank and so on. But how it works in practice is that Treasury compiles the budget, the Minister of Finance, in the end becomes part of that, and he doesn't really even share it with the other. Usually, what happens in the past, he doesn't even share it with his colleagues because, let's be honest, they don't understand it. Our politicians don't understand the budget, most of them, and they don't understand the process. But the Minister of Finance forgot that he's part of a government of national unity now, all of a sudden. He is not the majority party anymore. And when he started sharing some of that, because obviously there was pressure from the other political parties on what's going to be in the budget, all of a sudden he realized, but listen, I'm not the only guy in charge here anymore. I have to get the permission of the other guys in cabinet as well. And the whole thing exploded in his face. But the arrogance reading through this budget speech that was leaked, where he said he's going to increase VAT by 2% because I want to pay the civil servants. I mean, I can't believe he actually put that on paper. But that's just what happened here. This is not business as usual. In the past, he could do this, but yesterday completely underestimated or read the whole situation completely incorrectly. And like I've said, I think this is a turning point economically, but politically for South Africa as well, which is a good thing, by the way.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Dawie Roodt. Thank you, sir.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Sure.
And you know what's interesting is that even when SARS commissioner, the head of SARS,
Edward Kisvetter.
yeah, he even said by increasing the VAT by 2%, he says you're not going to move the needle much at all. So it's a lot of pain for us for no gain for what they're trying to achieve. So it's pointless. Pointless. As he said there, they're looking for 300 billion. You probably get 30 billion by increasing VAT, and all of us suffer. Okay. There we go. That was Chief Economist Dawie Roodt.
Kfm Mornings with Darren, Shirley, Sips, and